we must reinforce our strength at home and safeguard Canadian workers and businesses from the unjust U.S. tariffs that exist at present. And that's why we're announcing that Canada will be introducing a series of countermeasures to protect Canadian steel and aluminum workers and producers. And there's several, and I'm going to list them. First, Canada will adjust its existing counter tariffs on U.S. steel and aluminum products on the 21st of July, at the end of that 30-day period. In other words, we're going to adjust them to levels consistent with the progress that's made at that point on the broader trading arrangements with the United States. Secondly, we will implement reciprocal procurement rules, ensuring that only Canadian producers and producers from trading partners that provide Canada with tariff-free reciprocal access through trade agreements can compete for federal government procurement of steel and aluminum. In short, the government is responding to the impact of the unjust U.S. tariffs with multiple tools. We will review our response as the negotiations progress. Canadian leadership will be defined not just by the strength of our values, but also by the value of our strength. The world wants to do much more, and work much more closely with Canada, and we're ready. Now, on Monday morning, I, with colleagues, met with President Trump to discuss international priorities as part of the G7, but also to further negotiate a new economic and security partnership between Canada and the United States. And as we've said repeatedly, we'll take all the time we need to get the best deal for Canada, but no longer. And seeing progress that's been made, President Trump and I agreed to pursue negotiations towards a deal within the coming 30 days. We'll continue these negotiations, of course, in good faith. We're willing to sign a security and economic or commercial agreement with the United States that's in Canada's best interest, and only that. So that's the negotiation that the President and I communicate, I would say, relatively frequently on a range of issues. From our perspective, obviously this is top of mind. We need to stabilize the trading relationship with the United States. We need to have ready access to U.S. markets for Canadian companies and for Canadian companies, and not have our hands tied in terms of our dealings with the rest of the world. As you know, the U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum are global tariffs. They're not targeted specifically at Canada, but they, of course, affect our steel industries and our workers. And one of the consequences of that effect, or prospective consequences, is that steel from other countries, from third countries, start to come into Canada if we don't protect our industries. So we're setting these quotas. It's a long word, tariff rate quotas, but a quota for the amount of steel that can come in from third countries to limit that amount, to stabilize the market. And to be clear, we will be reviewing the level of those tariff rate quotas as this progresses. It depends on what the United States does, first and foremost with Canada, whether we come to an agreement in the next 30 days, but also what they do with the rest of the world. Any responsible government makes contingency plans. The world is in a trade war. The world's in a trade war that is running a risk of a global recession. And if I would note, and you don't need to take it from me, I'll quote the chair of the Federal Reserve this week, who highlighted the risks of stagflation, in other words, inflation. In their judgment, Federal Reserves, what do they know? But this is what they think, that inflation is going up and growth is going to slow in the United States. The world's in the middle of a trade war, and several wars, actual wars, including wars that can have quite significant implication for commodity prices, global growth, aside from the human cost that comes with them. Any responsible government, any responsible organization makes contingency plans for those circumstances.